It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books in the entire world for a fantastic comic book week with our good friend Drew.
Hey, man. Yeah, it was a fantastic comic book week, and I can't wait to talk about some of these books, especially Absolute Batman.
We had a great holiday, obviously, with Thanksgiving, and they absolutely delivered with great books. Also, who's delivering is the 616 Comics. If you haven't checked them out, the home of the sickest exclusive covers you can find anywhere, head over to the website. There's a code in the video description. You can get 10% off those exclusive covers. Hope to see you there very, very soon. So let's talk about Absolute Batman. We had the final confrontation of Absolute Batman and Absolute Bane. And I will give Scott Snyder this. He's all about going bigger and bigger and bigger. We have Bane growing to such heights, I guess, that Batman ended up being like, I don't know, a bug on his shoulder. He ended up being so enormous. Nick Dragotta absolutely nails it in a wildly bonkers issue.
This issue is a great summary of this whole run. Just over-the-top insanity, absurdity, and hilarity. This issue was the combination of the manga Akira, the movie Cobra with Sylvester Stallone. I mean, you get the murdering mayhem of Batman, the Akira level of monstrosity, and the dialogue on the level of Cobra. It makes for a hilarious, over-the-top, enjoyable, fun time. Look, is this something on the level of quality in regards to storytelling as Conan, G.I. Joe, or Space Ghost? Absolutely not. But where it lacks in that quality that it went bye-bye to over a year ago, it makes up for an over-the-top absurdity, and that's fun. And that's the one word to describe this series and this issue, absurdity. Absurdity.
But I do hope at some point that Scott rethinks his approach to Absolute Batman and maybe tries to tell something interesting with the character, because it appears that his go-to move is just to make things bigger. Oh, Bane destroys Batman. The next fight, he's going to be bigger. Batman has a Batmobile. We're going to make a bigger Batmobile. And he's just making everything absurdly huge. It certainly makes for a visual spectacle, but eventually he's going to have to tell a compelling story.
I don't think he will. I mean, I think he's going to be really relying upon Nick Dragotta here. I mean, look, no knock against Nick Dragotta. He is doing a fantastic job in the art here. It is absolutely beautiful. It's horrific. It's nasty. Like I said, it really reminds me of Akira. But I don't think this title is going to be providing anything really in depth, because I think Scott's already told those stories that he wanted to with Batman. This is the Absolute Batman, and I don't think we're going to be getting that here. I don't think that's what this title is about. Nothing really in depth, just going over the top, going bigger and bigger.
And I do feel like there's a disconnect between Scott and readers, especially me as a reader, maybe not everybody, but there at the end where you have Alfred kind of talking about how he sees Batman and how he fights to do what's right in all situations. And he's always out there fighting for the little guy, because he's on their side. I do not see this Batman Bruce Wayne like that at all. He's completely irresponsible. Just in this issue alone, it's vetted out that he went out there and screwed over a mob boss without telling his buddy who was a part of it and put him in great danger. What he did with Bane ended up getting all of his friends disfigured and deformed. He's lucky his mother is still alive with the things that he's gone out there and done and put so many people at risk. And I don't feel like really he's much of a hero.
This is not a hero. This is just a dark reflection of this universe. If you want to see a vengeful, spiteful, murdering, quote unquote, vigilante, this is what you get. He's not a hero.
So I think it's interesting. It's certainly a lot of fun, but I do hope eventually there's more to the character. There's some other books we definitely need to talk about, because this is a stacked week. Moving over to the indie scene, Geiger number 18, Jeff Johns writing, Eduardo Pensica on art. We've got Goldbeard and this mysterious chest that's buried underneath of a prison. We have Geiger wrongfully in prison, and they set up because they're going to use his execution as a bit of a ruse so they can actually get in there and maybe find this treasure that's been in there for so long. I was very disappointed that Gary Frank wasn't on the book, considering the book had been gone for 3 months. But it's an enjoyable conclusion to the story. I love the final pages of Barney and some of the things happening there.
You brought up an interesting point, because when I saw this issue in my LCS, I thought it was a back order, and oh no, it's the new issue. I completely forgot it was still coming out. But yeah, this was a good issue. It's not the best. I mean, we have a pirate here who's looking for some buried treasure in a prison, but he needs that right excuse to get in there. And when you know it, Geiger happens to be that excuse. Will Geiger survive? Will someone come to his aid? And what's that buried treasure? You gotta read to find out. It's a good issue. It's not the best. Gary Frank did a couple pages in the very, very back, so that's something of a win here for us as the reader. It's a weaker recommend, but it's still a recommend. Still a good read.
Still enjoying most of the stuff from Ghost Machine. Speaking of Image Comics, we also got from Skybound, Skinbreaker #3, Robert Kirkman writing, David Finch on art. I guess they've been working on this series for like 8 years because David Finch is completely done with all the artwork. And we get more of this chieftain as he's trying to change his tribe and bring in new types of technology into trapping game and bringing irrigation into their little village and all that kind of stuff. Not everybody is on board, and we do get to see a pretty cool confrontation between this enormous monster where the chief's ingenuity ends up saving the day and really saving the village. But there's another attack. One of his rivals gets to take credit for that one. But it is the work of David Finch and the amazing art that really puts us over the top.
This was my vote for best illustrated comic this week until I read something infernal this week. But regardless, it is still a damn well illustrated comic, and it's a toss-up, really, to flip a coin. But regardless, we see an aged Anok here whose leadership grows, weaker, and may the true evil of the story be his fellow villagers. And we've seen that when you're the village elder and you show that you may have grown weaker as you've gotten older, the younger will challenge you for that leadership. Will we see that here by the end of this issue? You got to read to find out. David Finch, once again, lights out on the art. I hope by him doing this, we see more of his fellow cover artists come back to do interiors. This is a strong recommend for Skinbreaker #3. It is still a remarkable read.
Further reminder that David Finch is amongst the greatest artists in the industry still. Also going to recommend Flash Gordon #13, Jeremy Adams writing, Eder Macias on art. We have our good Flash Gordon in a universe where he's evil. We have the evil Flash Gordon in a universe where he's good. The good Flash Gordon having to come up with a plan. How am I going to convince Zarkov that I'm just as evil as he is? And how can I get this army to actually work for me and perhaps go back and save my planet from this evil version of Flash Gordon? And I think Jeremy Adams is doing a very good job executing what is something that we've seen plenty of times.
Fake it till you make it. That's one of the greatest quotes about life and work, and that saying pretty much summarizes this issue with Flash. We have our Flash in an alternate universe where he's an evil ruler and Ming the Merciful. What? I mean, this issue was a hell of a lot of fun, well illustrated. And remember that saying, guys, fake it till you make it. That saying shows up quite a bit in this issue. Strong recommend for Flash Gordon #13.
Definitely been enjoying that one from Mad Cave, their best series of the year by far. Also going to recommend Conan, Scourge of the Serpent #3, Jim Zub writing, Ivan Gillan art. We still haven't seen our three main protagonists together in the same timeline, and I don't think that's going to happen, but we finally do know who's working behind the scenes, making all these snakes kind of appear in these different disparate timelines. I wish he had gotten the three of them together, but I think Jim Zub continues to knock it out of the park with Conan.
We see just how far the coils of Set have reached across not only the Hyborian age, but into the early 20th century as well. We've got 3 different stories going on here in 3 different ages with 3 different groups of heroes trying to combat the evil of Set. What is Set's ultimate plan? You gotta read to find out. Yeah, Wes, this is really reminding me of Grant Morrison's Seven Soldiers series from DC Comics, where we had all of our heroes fighting evil, but never met each other on the page. They were working across different times, fighting a different common evil. And you know what? That's never a bad thing. It's a unique story, unique style of event storytelling, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I don't know about you, but my favorite part is with our guys in the early 20th century. Solid art, great storytelling, and a solid recommend for Conan, Scourge of the Serpent #3.
Absolutely, but we are not done with the indie books because we have a final recommendation. Federal #18, Tony Fleeks writing, Trish Forstner on art. We continue to have the gang of cats in the pet store during the zombie rabies apocalypse, and you are an enormous fan of this one and have been following the entire time.
I love this series, yeah. So we're dealing with the fallout from the last issue with our boy Lucky, who's now taken charge of Pet City. But we also see that humans, specifically CDC doctors from afar, notice the lights have come on at the pet store. Will they check it out themselves? Only time will tell. And another question we need to ask, even if Lucky, our guy Lucky, is in charge, is he the right guy to be in charge? Would he let that power get to his head? You gotta read to find out. However, our cats are dealing with a major issue, and that's food. They're starting to run out of dry food. The dog food is upsetting their stomachs, and they're having a hard time trying to open the tin cans, which is hilarious to watch. And if you think someone is dead, hey, you better make sure that they indeed are. There's a lot of subplots going on here, a lot of moving parts, and one heck of a cliffhanger. I can't wait for the next issue, and this is a solid recommend once again for Feral.
And once again, as has been the case really for 2024 and 2025, indie comics are absolutely ruling it, but Marvel actually decided to carry their own weight this week because we got a couple of recommendations from the House of Ideas, starting out with Infernal Hulk #1, Philip Kennedy Johnson writing, Nick Klein on art. This entire book is just disgustingly beautiful. Some of the great body horror that you will see in all of 2025, maybe the best illustrated comic book of the year. It's that good. Hulk has been taken over by the eldest and clearly is doing bad things. We get introduced to a new human figure named Bridger, who I'm very, very interested in. I think Philip Kennedy Johnson did a great job fleshing this character out in one issue and making you really care about what happens to them. But once Infernal Hulk finally shows up and starts creating all the mayhem, this thing just goes off the rails as far as over-the-top gore and action and everything. And I can't imagine PKJ doing a better debut on Infernal Hulk #1. I am all in on this series.
Wes, buddy, I read this 4 times. Each time it kept getting better and better, as well as creepier and creepier. This is the Hulk story I've wanted since the beginning with PKJ and Nick Klein, and we finally got it. The pacing, the dialogue, the horror, the action, the mystery, it's all told masterfully here, and I hope everyone goes to the LCS to pick this up. This is my pick of the week, and I can't wait for the next issue. Wes, I think you'd agree with me in saying this is Marvel's best series right now. Strongest of recommends this week for Infernal Hulk #1.
I think it's Spider-Man and Wolverine, but we've only got one issue of this thus far.
That's true. So, that's true.
We do have to give it a little bit more time, but it certainly feels like it's going to be that. It's not quite my pick of the week. I think there was something from DC that was just a little bit better. This had a little bit higher stakes, but we'll get there soon because we still have to talk about Boba Fett, Black, White, and Red #3. Ethan Sachs writing, Juan Jose Reap on art. I don't particularly like this gimmick, and I don't normally support it, but I've been waiting and starving for good Star Wars books. Juan Jose Reap absolutely nails it in a Star Wars book, which I wouldn't think that he would be a great choice for this, but he is a great choice for this gimmick, and it really accentuates his penciling, the way that he likes to do his art, and it's just kind of a fun, really cool Boba Fett revenge story that goes back all the way to when he was a young teen bounty hunter.
I was legitimately shocked how fun this comic was. When's the last time Marvel produced a decent Star Wars comic? I mean, 2-3 years ago? It's very few and far between. I had so much fun that I don't want to spoil this for anyone. So I'll just say this. Boba Fett never lets a bounty get away, even after it's expired. Ethan Sachs managed to tell a fun, creepy, very creepy, and action-packed story with my boy Juan Jose Reap on the art, who does a masterful job conveying the action, the horror, and on occasion humor. You know, I've worked with Juan before on a project, and I personally messaged him to tell him he did a fantastic job in this issue. This is a strong recommend for Boba Fett, Black, White, and Red #3. If you're a Star Wars fan or a fan of the Fett, do yourself a favor and pick this up.
I think I agree with you. I think this is probably the best Star Wars comic Marvel has delivered in about 3 years.
Yeah.
Let's move over to the distinguished competition because they got a couple of books to recommend, starting out with DC KO #2, Scott Snyder writing, Javi Fernandez on art. This is my personal pick of the week, framing everything on Superman realizing that in this tournament, the worst outcome possible would be Lex Luthor winning and becoming the King Omega and what he would do with that and the way that he would treat the world. So he is on Lex Luthor from the very beginning, out to stop him while he's trying to help some of his friends. But there's so much other stuff going on in the background or things that are happening because they have to find these 16 powerful items from the DC universe. Once they've all been claimed, everyone who doesn't have one is eliminated. There's a great moment with Lobo. There's a probably better moment with Starro. And you get so many crazy, wild things. I've been waiting for fighting in DC KO. They finally delivered it in this issue, and I want more.
You know, Wes, I'm not going to lie. I was slightly disappointed with this issue. I mean, look, with a title like DC KO, I was expecting to see our heroes and villains actually have one-on-one tournaments, not partaking in Legends of the Hidden Temple game show. We're at the point now where I'm expecting one of them to enter the Shrine of the Silver Monkey to find an ancient totem. Look, it appears the only real fighting I want to see is going to be in the tie-ins coming up, like between Superman and Captain Atom. But we'll see. It is beautifully well illustrated. I'll say that. It is very well illustrated, and we'll just see what happens next. For me, I'm still not sold on it, but we'll see.
Drew is out of his ever-loving mind. If you can't get up for this comic book, I don't know what to tell you, sir.
Look, Infernal Hulk, it doesn't come close to Infernal Hulk or Boba Fett, Black, White, and Red. My opinion.
Oh, I think this is better than both of those. It certainly felt more important, and I love Superman versus Lex Luthor. So this is definitely right up my alley. We're also going to recommend Green Lantern number 29, Jeremy Adams writing, Carmine Diadomenico on art. The hard-traveling heroes back together again. Hal Jordan visiting Oliver Queen as he's in the middle of some investigation and stuff like that. Hal has seen the future or perhaps the past. He's not sure what he's seen in the Book of Oa, but he knows that it's screwed up with his mind, and he goes back to his old friend to kind of get his head right. We get some great action in there. There's one page where Hal Jordan comes up with a construct that's perfect for Oliver Queen that I thought was absolute awesome fan service. This is a very fun, lighthearted adventure comic book series team-up type of thing, and I had a lot of fun with Green Lantern this week.
Like you said, our hard-traveling heroes back together, uncovering a mystery involving Darkseid and a Darkseid robot with expensive real estate for rich people to evacuate to during the DCKO event. When you say it out loud, it's hilarious. But I think that's the point here. We're meant to have fun and laugh. It's well illustrated, well paced, great dialogue, and great fan service moments in this. It's a fun story, and if you want a good laugh, this is it for you. It's a recommend for Green Lantern number 29. Yeah, very fun.
And next week, he's going to meet up with Batman, and I sure hope that Hal Jordan slaps the taste out of his mouth. That guy's never forgiven him for something he didn't even... He wasn't in his right mind. He was parallax.
It was parallax. Come on. Yeah, I hope Batman has to come up, and he had a long time coming.
So if you enjoy this, but you would like a little bit more of it, we did do the Hot or Not podcast this week with Dylan and Sully, and it's up there for everybody. You don't even have to be a member of the Patreon or channel memberships. You can check it out. It's live on the channel right now. Hope to see you there very soon, and happy Thanksgiving.